presenting sponsor of Pod Save America is Blue Apron, the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. For less than $10 per person per meal, Blue Apron delivers seasonal recipes along with pre-portioned ingredients to make delicious home-cooked meals. Choose from a variety of new recipes each week, or let Blue Apron's culinary team surprise you. Recipes are not repeated within a year, so you'll never get bored. Customize your recipes each week based on your preferences. Blue Apron has several delivery options, so you can choose what fits your needs. And there's no weekly commitment, so you only get deliveries when you want them. Blue Apron knows you're busy, so now they're offering 30-minute meals.
I'm on the go, you know. I got to drop the kids off at soccer practice. Jack has violin lessons.
Yes. You're very busy.
Mary's on the lacrosse team.
And so you've got 30 minutes.
But I want to make a home-cooked meal for Mary and Jack.
Well, check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free.
And
with
Portia.
Free shipping by going to blueapron.com.
My third child is Portia.
Going to blueapron.com/crooked. That's blueapron.com/crooked. It's the best meals for Jack, Sally, and Portia. Blue Apron.
Mary. Whatever.
Blue Apron is a better way to...
Lou Dobbs is a nutcase.
Cook. Welcome to Pod Save America. I'm Jon Favreau.
I'm Dan Pfeiffer.
On the pod today, we have the #2 Democrat in the Senate, Illinois Senator Dick Durbin. Also, Dan, I am recording right now from the brand new, long-awaited Crooked Media podcast studio right here in Crooked Media headquarters.
Congratulations. You have hit the big time, Crooked Media.
We launched this company in January. It is September, and we have a studio. The only sad part of this is the producer we worked with at CBS News Radio, Bill Nesbitt, is incredible. We love Bill, so we will miss Bill. Hopefully, once in a while, we'll head back to CBS and do a show or two there. But wanted to give a shout out to him because he has been outstanding. But yeah, so now I'm in Crooked Media Studios. So anytime there's breaking news, we can run in here and record emergency pods, which is also great.
You're making a real promise there that you're not going to want to keep.
No, I know that. Okay, so what should we talk about today? Probably the congressional clusterfuck of a fall that we're heading towards. Once again, yesterday you sent me an outline very early in the morning, which meant that you jinxed everything.
But not in the normal way, though.
Not in the normal way. You sent the outline, and you said Trump's going to appear in North Dakota later today, and he could do something crazy there that changes all of this. So you were right about him doing something crazy, wrong about where it happened. What he actually did that was crazy was make a deal with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi.
That's fake tear Schumer to you.
Fake tear Schumer. So let's start with that. So yesterday, Donald Trump pantsed Paul RINO and Mitch McConnell in the Oval Office. Paul RINO had a bad day.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll get to Lou Dobbs. Yeah. Okay, so I think we should give everyone some background on what happened because I've seen a lot of confusion about this deal from people who don't follow the machinations of Congress and debt ceilings and government funding fights and all that bullshit. Why would you? So here's the background on everything that happened. So there are 3 huge things that Congress has to do by the end of September. There's actually a ton of different things, but the 3 biggest, I would say, are 1, pass relief funding for Hurricane Harvey. By the way, we have Hurricane Irma headed towards Florida, so we are keeping everyone there in our thoughts and prayers, and hopefully, it hasn't struck Florida yet, but it has struck some of the islands in the Caribbean. Very, very scary storms. We'll be watching that over the next couple days. But anyway, so number 1, Congress is supposed to pass relief for funding for Hurricane Harvey. Number 2, Congress has to fund the federal government to avoid a shutdown. Number 3, Congress has to raise the debt ceiling, which is paying the bills that Congress has already racked up so that America doesn't default on its debt and cause a global economic catastrophe. Again, the debt ceiling is sort of this made-up bullshit that Congress put into practice somewhere along the line where all it does is say to the Congress, you are now legally allowed to go pay the bills that you have already incurred. Has nothing to do with actually adding more debt to at all. So even though Republicans control both houses of Congress, all three of these things, relief funding, federal government funding, and raising the debt ceiling, require Democratic votes, both because you need 60 votes in the Senate to do these things, and because the crazy caucus in the House, the Freedom Caucus, will not vote to fund the government or raise the debt ceiling without like insane cuts to Medicaid and education and healthcare and all the rest of it. So basically, Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell need Democratic votes to pass these measures. So for a while, they were like, what the fuck are we going to do? How are we going to get this done? And then Hurricane Harvey funding actually presented them with an opportunity. The solution was to tie the debt ceiling increase to Hurricane Harvey funding, figuring that even their own crazy caucus and the Democrats would not vote against Harvey funding. The Democrats wouldn't attach a bunch of demands to it. If you tie everything up in the hurricane relief package, it's going to be easier politically to pass this thing. And while they were at it, they figured, you know what, why don't we raise the debt ceiling high enough so that we won't have to raise it again until after the 2018 elections. The Democrats won't be able to attach any demands to it, so we'll just get this out of the way. So this is Ryan and McConnell's plan. Still, some of the conservatives in their caucus and the Freedom Caucus complained about this plan because they're annoyed that they'd have to raise the debt ceiling with any corresponding cuts, which is their big deal, their big ask. So there was some complaints about it. So yesterday morning, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer see some of the complaints on the right wing of their caucus and say, okay, we have a plan. We'll raise the debt ceiling, but we're only going to increase it and fund the government for 3 months, not until after the 2018 election. Dan, what was the thinking behind that move?
From the Democrats?
For the Democrats. So why did Nancy and Chuck put that statement out?
Well, I think we don't know yet, and I'm interested to talk to Senator Durbin about it, but I'm sure the Democrats would like the Republicans, who have the majority and up for election, to be forced to vote for the debt ceiling multiple times between now and the election. And second, it is an opportunity to force votes on other things or tie other things to it, because the debt ceiling essentially becomes what you would call a must-pass vehicle. So, which is why they wanted to put Harvey funding on it, which is that will get it through if it's attached to the debt ceiling, because we don't want to theoretically crash the global economy. But I want to say a couple of other things about the debt ceiling.
Please do.
In your very well done, very detailed explanation of this, you made it sound, you just said it's the Freedom Caucus who wants cuts. And that is true. But it's important to remember that was the position of the entire Republican Party.
Yes.
When they took power in 2010.
That's correct.
Even though people like Paul Ryan are theoretically smart enough to know better, they demanded commensurate cuts. If you needed to raise the debt ceiling by $1 trillion, you had to cut $1 trillion from government, which is not a thing you can actually do if you want to have an army and Social Security and things like that. And that was their position all the way through 2011. And so when we were in the White House, we in 2011 had a negotiation with them, which was they wanted all these cuts. We wanted 0 cuts, and we negotiated, and we came up with a set of cuts that were closer to Obama's opening bid than the Republicans' opening bid, but not things we would have done ideally. And that was a very painful process. And we almost crashed the global economy. The United States lost its AAA credit rating as a part of that. So the stocks took a huge hit, wiping out billions, if not trillions of dollars in overall wealth. And Barack Obama had a principle after that, which he would never negotiate on the debt ceiling again.
Right.
And that it would be up to Congress to do it. And so here we are now in this new phase where the Republicans are in charge. It is their job to do it. With Barack Obama, it was different because John Boehner was in charge of that, Republicans in charge of the House, and they were refusing to do it without anything else. So it was basically a standoff. In this case, Donald Trump is the president of the United States. His party is in charge of government, and yet he still needs Democrats to do it, not just beyond the 8 Democrats you need in the Senate to avoid filibuster. You need the majority of Democrats to vote for this to get it through the House, most likely.
Right. And again, some of you listening right now might say, I don't get it. Why do you need this debt ceiling thing if it's going to
You don't.
cause
The
all
answer
you
is
don't.
you don't.
It is a
Stupid.
political invention entirely. The entire government could function without it. It is not an ideological need. It is not a need for functioning government. It is just a made-up bullshit thing that could cause economic global catastrophe. Great. Okay, so in response to Nancy and Chuck's proposal, Paul Ryan goes ballistic and accuses them of playing politics with a debt ceiling, which is hilarious because here's Paul Ryan in December of 2013, and I quote, "We are going to meet and discuss what it is we want to get out of the debt limit. We certainly don't want nothing out of this debt limit." So Paul Ryan, who's played politics with a debt ceiling for a living for most of the time period between when Obama became president and when Trump did, now suddenly was upset about playing politics with the debt ceiling. Amazing behavior
John,
from Paul Ryan, Dan.
I don't know how closely you listen to the Crooked Media podcasts, but Paul Ryan is not a particularly principled individual. He might be full of shit. And this may be another piece of evidence to that.
So he does his whole, how could they play politics with this, blah, 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 blah. We're not going to accept that deal. That's crazy. Fine. So now, with all this as background, all of our heroes head to the Oval Office yesterday. Schumer, Pelosi, Ryan, McConnell. They meet with Trump. Ryan and McConnell say, okay, we're proposing an 18-month debt ceiling increase tied with Hurricane Harvey relief, and we'll fund the government. What do you think? And Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, Trump's Treasury Secretary, also says, yes, this is a good idea. This is important for markets. We don't want a short-term debt deal. Great, blah, 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 blah. Schumer and Pelosi say, no, we're not doing 18 months. And so the Republicans say, okay, how about 6 months? Democrats say, no. How about 3 months? And Donald Trump says, deal. Shocking Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell, who could barely contain their anger. At that moment, Ivanka Trump walks into the Oval Office. The conversation is derailed because Trump can only pay attention to something for a couple seconds, and that is the ball game.
It's so funny.
Why do you think Trump did this? Let's start there.
Because he's dumb. That's why.
I'm glad you gave that answer.
He just paid sticker price for his car. That's what he did. Because here's the funny thing about it is, one of the ideas when Trump became president was, he's not, some fears among, establishment conservatives is Trump's not really a conservative. He may not even really be a Republican. He may just be playing a racist Republican on television. And he doesn't have doctrinaire conservative views on things like government spending or entitlements or whatever else. And the fear was he would come in, and he likes to build things, so he would come in agreement with the Democrats on a Democratic priority that would be, good politics for him and would upset conservatives. That is not what happened here. He took the worst. There were 3 deals on the table, and he readily agreed to the worst deal by far. If you're president, you want the longest debt ceiling possible. But you're president, you really want the debt ceiling to go away forever. But 18 months, deal with this after the midterms. At 6 months is twice as good as 3 months, and he just took 3 months, just cause.
So, I've thought about this a lot, and I realize a general rule of thumb is you're not supposed to think for more than 5 to 10 seconds about Trump's motivations, because most of the motivations are driven by narcissistic impulses to get good press coverage, appease your Fox and Friends hosts or Sean Hannity or like whatever the last newscast you saw that day, and then you just sort of move on. And that's how Trump operates, right? So I don't want to delve too deeply into Trump's psyche here, but to play devil's advocate, and I actually saw our friend Brian Beutler was tweeting about this too, like, let's play it the other way around. What could Trump have got from Chuck and Nancy? What more could he have got? Like, let's say they said, no, we want 3 months or else we're not providing Democratic votes, which you need. What if then Trump said, well, okay, I'm going to go ahead and tell Mitch and Paul to put a 6-month or 12-month debt ceiling increase on the floor of the Senate and the House. And you Democrats, are going to have to sit there and say you're going to vote against Hurricane Harvey relief, and you're also going to vote against preventing economic catastrophe by not raising the debt ceiling. And you go see how that works for you guys.
Yeah, that's what he should have done.
Right.
I mean, it's like so patently obvious.
Then what did Chuck and Nancy do at that point?
They
basically bluffed.
Yeah, they're put in a position of blocking hurricane relief and not lifting the debt ceiling. And what would probably happen in the long run is there would then be some negotiation and you would get something in between the two positions.
Right.
I mean, we'll ask Senator Durbin this, but I don't think Senator Schumer and Leader Pelosi went in thinking they were actually going to get. I think that was just their starting bid. So I'm sure they were just like walked out being like, "Great." I'm sure that 6 months was probably fine. I find it impossible to imagine that Democrats who beat the crap out of Republicans over the debt ceiling and Republican opposition to Sandy funding, and if you remember, Senator Schumer is from New York, where Sandy hit, we're going to be in a position that they could at the end of if the Republicans had called their bluff, I think it would have been very hard to stop that bill.
Right. I think that's right because, well, the other thing that they would have had to bet on, or I guess they would have had to say, like, look, you can put this on the floor, but if you don't get Republican votes to pass this, if this measure fails, because not only did Democrats vote against it, but you couldn't even get some of your own. You guys control a majority in the House and a majority in the Senate. Why couldn't you find the votes? You couldn't even find the votes in the House to pass this thing. Then it looks like it's Republicans who fail to do this, not Democrats.
Right. The Senate would just sit quiet and just wait.
The Senate would sit quiet and say, all right, Paul Ryan, you pass an 18-month debt ceiling increase, and you pass Hurricane Harvey relief out of your House with your majority. Let's see it. And Paul Ryan probably, I don't know. I don't know if he could have gotten that done because of the Freedom Caucus.
He could not. He is also very weak. So it's unlikely he could have gotten it done.
But that suggests that basically Schumer and Pelosi had all the leverage anyway, the whole time in the meeting. And of course they were going to get their 3 months.
They did have the leverage up until you attach it to Harvey. And I think the Harvey part makes it very hard. If it's just a straight debt ceiling vote, that's an easy one. You're in charge, you do it. When Democrats are being forced to vote against hurricane relief, that is hard. And I think a lot of Democrats would not do it over the debt ceiling is important if it doesn't get lifted, but it's hard, this is basically a piece of political maneuvering to make them vote for it again. So you also have leverage on the larger government funding bill in December.
Right.
So at the end, are Democrats truly going to vote against Hurricane Harvey relief over 3 versus 6 months on the debt ceiling? I think that's a hard thing. If it was the DACA bill, the DREAM Act on there, that might be a different thing where you had a more strongly held principle to adhere to.
Right.
My theory on what happened here is up until 15 minutes before that meeting, Trump had heard of the debt ceiling, but had no idea what it was and what happened if you didn't lift it. And I think they briefed him beforehand, and Steve Mnuchin did what Secretary Geithner or Secretary Liu did for us and went through the horrors of what happens if it doesn't get lifted, and they scared Trump. And so he took there's no question the Democratic deal is the least risky path in the short term. It's like, great, Democrats will vote for this. We need Democrats, done, take it. And so I think he might have acted out of fear.
And look, it's a scary proposition. I mean, I've said this before, but Tim Geithner sat me down when I had to write a speech in the event of a potential default on our debt when we were, dealing with debt ceiling brinksmanship in the Obama administration, and writing that speech about what happens after default, or even when the rest of the world thinks you're about to default, the catastrophe in the markets, the people who don't get paid, the benefits that don't go out, the checks that don't go out. I mean, it's pretty frightening stuff. It's much for everyone. I mean, it's much worse than a government shutdown. A government shutdown you don't want. You want to avoid it. It's bad. It's a self-inflicted wound. Breaching the debt ceiling is just horrendous. Another thing that happens in the meeting is Trump also calls for scrapping the debt ceiling altogether, which I agree with Donald Trump. There you go. Great idea, Donald Trump. And Democrats have been trying to get rid of the debt ceiling for a long time. And today Pelosi was like, sure, yeah, let's do it. And of course, Paul Ryan said, no, I don't want to do that because I want to continue playing politics with the debt ceiling well into the future.
Yeah, I would say Paul Ryan's explanation for this was he wanted to keep the power of the purse.
Right.
The debt ceiling is not the power of the purse. The power of the purse is when you appropriate money for government funding, which they already did. All the debt ceiling does is say you can pay the bills you've already incurred. And so that is bullshit. That is a bullshit argument. And probably when he's home alone doing P90X and genuflecting at a statue of Ayn Rand, Paul Ryan knows this is bullshit, but he is the leader of a large group of morons. And it's just, there's no other way to put it. They're a good portion, not all of, you can divide the Republican caucus in the House into two groups. People who are too dumb to know what the debt ceiling actually does.
Yep.
And people who know what the debt ceiling does, but feel like they have to pretend like they're dumb enough to not know what it does.
Because they're too scared.
So that they can be accepted in the Republican Party of 2017.
Yes. You are either too dumb or too scared as a Republican member of House. That's one of the two options. So did you say, and I want to ask Durbin about this as well, some activists, Luis Gutierrez in Congress, as well as United We Dream and some other activists on the left, are actually upset about this deal that Schumer and Pelosi struck because they said they should have said, we want a vote on the DREAM Act attached to this deal. And so they're upset. They think that the Pelosi and Schumer caved. What do you think about that?
I just want to know more. I still think Schumer and Pelosi probably had 3 or 4 moves left in their game plan, and they still don't really understand why Donald Trump took this deal. Because I can see a world where they're like, Republicans want 18 months, Democrats want 3, Republicans say we'll take 6, Democrats will say, great, we'll take 6, but give us the DREAM Act, and then Trump just took the 3 months. And so they live to fight another day. We can replay this whole thing out in December.
Yeah, that's my thought too. It's like if in 3 months they don't demand the DREAM Act the next time we do this, then we can criticize them all we want. But it seems to me as if what they did is let's attach the DREAM Act to something that doesn't have hurricane relief on it, because that's going to be politically easier to do than attaching the DREAM Act to a Harvey relief package. To me, that seems like that's why they did this. So Republicans were not too happy about this deal. Mike Simpson of Idaho, Republican in the House, a 3-month debt ceiling? Why not do it daily? He's the best deal maker ever, don't you know? I mean, he's got a book out about it. Another senior Republican aide told Jonathan Swan the Democrats have bluffed their way into total victory. And another GOP aide said the president just handed a loaded gun to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. So Republicans on the Hill are not too happy about it. Also, so what the media reaction, the MAGA media, Breitbart has a picture of Trump, Pelosi, and Schumer together, and it says, "Welcome to the swamp." But at least one member of the Republican media, Lou Dobbs, is with Trump still on this deal. If you haven't watched Lou Dobbs' crazy video, a couple-minute video from last night, where he just uses this whole thing as an opportunity to attack Paul Ryan, which like it was we don't love Paul Ryan here, but it's certainly not Paul Ryan's fault. Paul Ryan fought against this deal. This was Donald Trump's deal, so he called him Ryan the Rhino, which, as you pointed out, is a mistake because he should have just gone with Paul Rino.
I think there's both. There are some like bigger lessons or thoughts to take from everything, how this has played out in the last 24 hours. But it's worth noting that Lou Dobbs is so ridiculous that he's on JV Fox. Like, he's not
Fox
on
Business,
Fox.
yeah.
He's on Fox Business. So they're like, you are a blowhard. You shill for Trump. You use, racist and misogynistic code words and language, but you're just not talented enough to make Fox. So we're going to put Jesse Waters on Fox and move you to Fox Business.
Oh.
So that's not good for Lou Dobbs. Maybe that's why he's so angry.
Not good for Lou Dobbs. Not good for Paul RINO. Quite a bad day. The misadventures of Paul RINO. That was yesterday.
That's a pretty good episode title.
Oh, there we go. We got one.
Some of the other thoughts about this are, I think it says a lot about sort of the ideological vacuum within the Republican Party, because the debt, using the debt ceiling as some mechanism is not an ideological principle.
No.
It's not something that Reagan, said at the 1984 convention or came from the writings of William F. Buckley. It's just low-grade legislative thuggery, and that's been taken from them. And so it isn't there's a world where Trump cuts some deal to, like I said, do infrastructure with Schumer, or do infrastructure with Schumer by raising taxes on wealthy people or something that would violate what are theoretically long-held quote-unquote conservative principles. That's not what this is. This is just a big. The Republicans are all upset over a legislative strategic maneuver that Trump did in the wrong way. But I think it would also, the response of the media should scare the shit out of Ryan and McConnell.
Right.
Because Trump screwed up here. Absolutely screwed up. Looks like a moron. Doing a deal with Schumer and Pelosi is the only thing he could have done that would have theoretically upset the pro-Trump media more. Would be doing a deal with Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama.
Yeah.
And so with, sort of the two bogey people that they use, and their response is, for the most part, to support Trump. And so it just shows what limited leverage the other Republicans have over Trump.
Yeah, I mean, Washington Post has a story that Mark Meadows, the head of the Freedom Caucus, and Steve Bannon yesterday were talking about how to replace Paul Ryan as Speaker. This deal happens. Trump cuts this deal. And they talk about, Lou Dobbs is yelling about Paul RINO, and these guys are talking about how to replace him as Speaker, which tells you everything you need to know about how fucked up their caucus is, how fucked up their politics
Can we just diverge a second to talk about the lionization of Steve Bannon and Breitbart?
I know.
I mean, do you know what
60 Minutes
Breitbart
this Sunday. Tune in.
On Breitbart's best day, it is exponentially less influential than Crooked Media.
I'd be
like, I'm half kidding, but not really. It's a fucking website that's run out of some dude's house, and
a lot of hits,
Paul, not that many, not as many as you would think.
Yeah,
and and we're not sure how much of that engagement's driven by Russian bots.
That's true.
And so what? Steve Bannon and Mark Meadows met. Who cares? And they met at the quote unquote Breitbart embassy, which is what Breitbart calls their headquarters, which is a row house on Capitol Hill, because they say they are ambassadors from real America. That row house was purchased by multimillionaire former Goldman Sachs executive Steve Bannon.
Hollywood elite Steve Bannon. It's so fucking ridiculous.
But while we're talking about Steve Bannon, in a 24-hour period, I have agreed with Donald Trump and Steve Bannon.
What else did Steve Bannon say?
Steve Bannon was asked by Charlie Rose on the 60 Minutes interview that's airing on Sunday about Gary Cohn. And he said Gary Cohn should resign.
He should. And
his reason was, either you support the president and stay, or if you are so upset by what the president did that you feel compelled to tell every reporter who will ask that you're upset, then you should resign.
Yeah. No,
he's right about that too.
That makes a lot of sense. How about yesterday? Breaking news yesterday that Gary Cohn is now not going to get the seat on the Fed that he was looking for, Fed chair. And that is because he was very upset that the President of the United States refused to condemn neo-Nazis and white supremacists. So
upset
Gary,
that he got up and went to work for that very same president the next day.
Because he wanted the Fed chair. He wanted to be Fed chair. And so he decided to keep working for the white supremacist sympathizers. And now he doesn't get it. So there you go. As Lovett tweeted yesterday, thanks for playing, Gary. Enjoy the steak knives.
And now he's sort of stuck for a while because
Right.
he will look even worse if he leaves in the wake of not getting the job that he was so obviously staying for, but didn't want to admit he was staying for. And that makes me happy because Gary Cohn's pain is funny to me.
This is Pod Save America. Stick around. There's more great show coming your way.
Pod Save America is brought to you by Upside.
Upside.
If you travel for business,
And I do.
you know it's a game of wins and losses.
And I know that too.
Having an open seat next to you on your flight, that's a win. Or you could buy it like Ann Coulter. And then complain about it. The person in front of you reclining the seat, that's a loss.
No.
No, I'm with you.
No. What
not.
is wrong with the society that all of a sudden it's like reclining the seat is morally wrong? What are you people talking about? That airspace behind the seat is what you paid for. We all recline. And you know what? Some seats don't recline. So you go to Seat Guru, you check it out in advance, and you make sure you have a seat that reclines so the person ahead of you can recline. We all recline together. And you know what? Honestly, liberals telling each other that it's wrong to recline the seat is fucking why Trump happened.
Love it. I thought we were going to argue about this.
We're not.
And I'm so on this. I'm a pretty considerate person.
Yeah, more so than me, for sure.
But like, it's reclining for a fucking reason. If you don't like the seat reclining in front of you, you recline your seat all the way back. It's a fucking Ponzi
And the
scheme.
person-
and if you're in the last row, then I'm sorry that you're in the last row.
Then you get Madoffed, and all of a sudden
God damn it.
that's the lot you've chosen.
What are we talking about? Upside. Okay.
When we agree on something like that, it's
Very
pretty
powerful.
ironclad.
Very powerful. We'll see what Tommy says. Anyway, Upside has the absolute best available prices for flights, hotel, and rental cars. They also reward you with a gift card to places like Amazon.com every time you buy a business trip. Amazing.
Cool.
And number 3, I didn't know we were counting, is the amazing 6-star treatment you'll get from
6-star?
Upside's customer service
All right,
specialists,
guys.
who they call navigators.
I hear one of their competitors has 7-star treatment.
Upside navigators are instantly accessible 24/7 by voice chat, email, or message on the Upside app. That's more accessibility than Love It. You can't get him that easily. Even reaching out to you with useful info to help you avoid a problem before it happens.
You're in a good mood today.
I'm going to start your Upside 6-star treatment right now, John.
Oh, no.
You go to upside.com.
I don't know if you can.
And you use my code CrookedMedia.
Oh, cool.
And you'll get a minimum $100 gift card to Amazon.com. A $100 gift card. That's code CrookedMedia for a minimum $100 gift card to
Crooked Media is the code.
Upside.com.
Upside.com.
Because you deserve a better business trip.
You deserve a better business trip.
Minimum purchase required. See site for complete details.
Mm-hmm.
See how I did that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Pod Save America is brought to you by Tommy John.
Tommy John. Exciting.
Guys, we love Tommy John.
We do.
Their underwear, their undershirts, and their socks are life-changing.
I mean, let's not go crazy.
If you haven't tried them yet, you're missing out. This week, Tommy John wanted to highlight some of the great tweets
Yes.
you have been sending.
Yes. Exciting.
At Jasper's Rink says, quote, guys, I've tried all of the podcast-sponsored underwear, and I'm here to tell you that at Tommy John is the best of the lot, and it's not close, end quote. Pretty standard.
That's pretty.
I'm not blown away by Jasper Rink's quote.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of just gets to the point.
At Justin
Not a lot of spin on
_
those
Alex
balls.
says, quote, trying out my first pair of at Tommy John briefs today, thanks to at Pod Save America's constant, in parentheses, hilarious ads. Gotta
Smart
say,
person.
ellipse, they're kind of great, end quote.
So, in a way that there's sort of subtly an insult there. That ellipse is saying, I wasn't sure if I could trust them.
There was,
so,
there was something to be read
but
into that.
it ended fine.
At DC Aficionado, in parentheses, aka Dunce Cap Aficionado, says, quote, when I see at Tommy John ads, my brain reads them to me in at John Fav's voice. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that occurs in your head when you're
Good.
thinking about underwear.
Good. I didn't like that because it wasn't about me.
At Packy J says, just got some Tommy John underwear in the mail. Holy smokes, have I been missing out. There was a lot of O's in that holy, so that's why I did it like that. Now it's your turn to give Tommy John a try. If it isn't the most comfortable underwear you've ever worn, you get your money back. It's all part of the, quote, best pair you'll ever wear or it's free guarantee. That's a
John.
long slogan.
John, just from now on, you don't need to make quote fingers because this is a podcast.
It's important. There's a couple people in this room. I want them to see the air quotes. A couple
Rum.
people, a couple dogs.
You say rum. Let's keep going.
I know. It's like a weird Canadian thing, but I'm not Canadian. Stay comfortable all day, every day with Tommy John. No adjustment needed. Hurry to TommyJohn.com/crooked to save 20% on your first order. That's TommyJohn.com/crooked for 20% off.
TommyJohn.com/crooked.
Boom. So I want to make a few more points about the new bipartisan Trump, the deal maker. Number one, not only was this a stupid deal in the short term, it was also like, it's kind of dumb, I think, maybe in the long term, to piss off Ryan and McConnell, who are essentially Trump's jurors in his impeachment trial down the road. Like, if Bob Mueller comes knocking and makes an impeachment recommendation at some point down the road, Trump, the best friends Trump needs to have are Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan, right?
Yes, I think that's true. I would say two things about that. One, Paul Ryan is a moral coward, so
We'll
it doesn't really matter what will happen
yeah,
there.
he'll be there for Trump.
Yeah, he will be. He will be the last soldier on the island.
Trump could kick his ass every day from now until the impeachment trial, and he'd still probably save him.
Yeah, but if I was Trump and my goal was to make it through my first term without getting impeached, the last thing I would do is pass tax reform.
Yeah.
As long as tax reform is out there,
That's true.
He has Paul Ryan and most of these Republicans in the pocket. As long as he can dangle the idea that we can cut taxes for rich people and make poor people pay for it, they will not hold him accountable for anything. Once that's done, that's it. They have run it. That's all they care about. And then all bets are off.
Yep. I think that's right. That's a very good point. So the second thing is, like, we are now in for 3 or 4 days of fucking think pieces about the new bipartisan Trump working with the Democrats. It'll be on all the Sunday shows. Thousands of words will be written about this. And all I'm going to say is, like, let's wait, I don't know, 4 or 5 days before we start dragging out the Ronald Reagan, Tip O'Neill fairy tale bullshit. Because we know Donald Trump. We know he turns on a dime. Something's going to piss him off. He's going to go back to yelling at everyone on Twitter. Like, let's pump the brakes on the new bipartisan Trump thing.
This is not bipartisan. I mean, technically this is bipartisan in the sense that Republicans and Democrats are involved. But if two chimpanzees had walked in the Oval Office with signs around their neck that said 3-month debt ceiling deal, he would have agreed with them. This isn't like he was just looking for, like, there's no long game here with Trump. It's like, if I do this with Chuck and Nancy, maybe they'll be more friendly on tax reform, and then maybe we can do infrastructure. It's just, he just reacted to a shiny object, and it just happened to be the Democrats who were holding up the shiny object at the time.
Yeah. I mean, my view is, like, we have to remove this man from office as soon as humanly possible. But in the meantime, like, we should also do everything we can to limit the damage he causes. And if his own fucking narcissistic impulses lead him to accidentally do that and help us with that, then great. But it's not something we can ever count on, you know?
Washington, D.C.'s fetish for bipartisanship knows no bounds.
Never. It'll never go away. It'll never be.
And let's say bipartisanship is good.
Yeah,
we should have it.
If it's real.
Yeah, that's not what this is.
Well, this is it's a tiny deal.
Different.
It kicks the whole thing to 3 months. We're going to be talking about this again in December, and then we'll have to see.
Like, bipartisanship is compromise where one side gives the other side what they want. Like, Trump did not give in to some core progressive agenda item in exchange for a conservative agenda item. He just agreed to have a vote 3 months sooner than he was already going to have a vote.
That's right. So we shouldn't lose sight of that. So let's talk about DACA, because that's obviously one of the big issues that, you know, we want to resolve over the next couple months, particularly when we get this vote again in December. So the other weird thing over the last couple of days is that Trump has basically said, "Oh, I told Chuck and Nancy I want to do a deal on this." He tweeted the day that DACA was rescinded by Sessions that if he'll revisit this issue if Congress doesn't act. This morning, apparently on the request of Nancy Pelosi, he tweeted that Dreamers shouldn't worry in the next 6 months. And then said no action, which is also confusing because it sounds like he's telling them they don't have to take action, which they certainly do. If you're a dreamer and if you are a young American who's undocumented in this country, you should apply you have to apply within these 6 months to renew your work permit for the next 2 years. And you can apply within these next 6 months if you already have one. So, you know, everyone should know that. Trump's tweet was a little confusing. But anyway, so what do we think? What do you think he's doing this for? Do you think he just saw the awful coverage both from Republicans and Democrats in the media about how bad this decision was, and he wants to do something about it. What's going on there?
I'm going to assume that, per usual, he's reacting to something he saw in the news,
Right,
without much thought.
Agree.
And I don't believe he's ever met a dreamer. I think he probably would cross the street as opposed to speaking to a dreamer. But I'm sure he did not like the headlines he saw. Challenged his warped self-image of himself, and so he reacted to it. And if the coverage was he was too soft on dreamers, then he would responded the other way. I never bought the story that about Syria that Ivanka showed him these photos of children and that motivated him to act. And I don't buy the theory now that he is so moved by the stories of these dreamers that he feels that he was forced into this position because of his deep understanding and reverence for constitutional law, that he had to make this move, but he desperately wants to fix it. I think he's just reacting to pieces of stimuli in the environment without much thought.
That's probably right. So what else? So it seems like we should prioritize a measure that protects the dreamers over the next 3 months. What else does Congress have to get done, or what else do we want it to get done now that the decks have been cleared on Harvey relief, debt ceiling, and government funding for 3 months?
Well, there's a bunch of other things that are critical. I mean, one, there's obviously a possibility this is not the Harvey package. There's going to have to be much more money for Harvey. And if Hurricane Irma that you mentioned earlier continues on the path in which we fear it may, then there may be an unfortunate possibility that we have to do an aid package for Florida and Georgia and North Carolina and the other states that are South Carolina states that are, at least in the possible track over the next week here. But also, so we have to fund the government. We have to lift the debt ceiling. We have to do hurricane relief. The FAA bill expires, and so we have to reauthorize air traffic controllers, which seems
important,
like pretty critical. Yeah, I say this to a man with a
fear of flying. Yeah, no, that's particularly important. Pet issue for me.
The state children's health insurance program expires at the end of the month. We have to do that, and this seems like it may be particularly relevant at this exact moment in time. The National Flood Insurance Program also expires at the end of this month.
Yeah.
Today is what, September 7th?
September 7th, yeah.
And it'll come as a shock that Congress is not planning on doing a lot of 5-day weeks. And so there's very limited time and no discussion is how they're going to get these other things done. And so that should be very concerning to people with children, or people who care about healthcare, or people who are in the path of floods, or people who like to have planes take off and land in the right places.
Yeah. And also yesterday, there was a bipartisan hearing on how to stabilize Obamacare and to strengthen Obamacare. And so I think some sort of fix that stabilizes the health insurance markets would also be welcome in these next couple months too, to say the least. And to make sure that Trump makes these payments, these cost-sharing reduction payments to insurance companies, which would keep the insurance markets functioning for the people who have health care through Obamacare. So, I mean, there is a long list of demands that Democrats should force Republicans to act on if they want to keep, my view on this whole thing is playing politics on the debt ceiling and using the debt ceiling as hostage is, I don't like that, because that could cause some real serious, scary damage. But in terms of like keeping the government open and keeping government funding, yeah, I think they should make those demands for that for sure.
Yeah, I also think it's worth understanding the difference between what the Republicans tried to do during the Obama years and what the Democrats are doing.
Yeah.
The Republicans controlled Congress. They controlled the House of Representatives. They were the ones responsible for bringing the bill up, and they were refusing to do that. They would, unless the bill met some set of demands, including at one time saying they weren't going to lift the debt ceiling without repealing Obamacare. And in this case, Republicans are in charge. They bring the bill up. They were unable to muster enough people to do it. And so they need Nancy Pelosi's votes to do it. And so She has every right, because of a failure on the part of the Republicans, to ask for something.
That's
like,
true.
I do not think they should, like, they have leverage and they should use their leverage to push for progressive priorities. That is different than one branch of government going to the other branch of government and saying, we will destroy the economy unless you give me what you want. This is an internal congressional dispute. And if Paul Ryan was better at his job, or there were fewer dead enders in the Republican Party, then this would not be an issue. But it's because of Paul Ryan's failure, he has to go to Nancy Pelosi, and she's under no obligation to do his job for him, even though she's been doing the job of John Boehner and Paul Ryan since 2011 when the Republicans took over.
Yeah, when it comes to governing, the Republican Party is a failed state. It has been throughout the Obama administration and now the Trump administration, and Donald Trump winning the presidency does not paper over that basic fact that they cannot govern because, as you said, they have these dead enders in their party, particularly in the House, who just say no to everything because people elected a bunch of morons to Congress.
Donald Trump getting elected proves the Republican Party is a failed state.
Right, exactly. The ultimate expression of that. Okay, when we come back, we will be talking to the Senate Democratic Whip from Illinois, Dick Durbin. Don't go anywhere. This is Pod Save America, and there's more on the way. Pod Save America is brought to you by FrameBridge.
FrameBridge.
FrameBridge is the easiest way to custom frame your favorite art and photos without ever leaving your house.
Without ever leaving your house.
And here at Pod Save America, we are all about never leaving your house for anything.
Yeah, you get the sense that based on who they're targeting with various ads for this show, that you're a bunch of shut-ins and hermits. It's like J.D. Salinger's out there. I guess he's not alive, but when he was, he would have been listening and just been like, I got my Postmates, I got my Upside, I got my FrameBridge.
With FrameBridge's simple online ordering process, you can order a fully customized piece in minutes.
Is J.D. Salinger alive?
I don't know. Here's how it works. Well, we're about to find out after this ad. Here's how it works. Go to framebridge.com.
I think he passed.
Upload your photo from your computer or directly from your Instagram.
Famously shy.
Right. Or if you have a physical item, they'll provide secure prepaid packaging so you can mail it in for free. And you're not going to the post office. You use stamps.com. Preview your photo online in any frame style. Choose your favorite or get free help from their talented designers.
John, you know that we're in the middle of using FrameBridge to frame many a piece of art for our studio, the one in which we're currently sitting.
I did not know that.
Well, it's happening.
That's great. Lovett's in charge of look
I'm
and
the
feel.
lead on the studio.
Look and feel. The best part, instead of the hundreds you'd pay at a framing store, their prices start at $39 and all shipping is free. Plus, Pod Save America listeners will get 15% off their first order at framebridge.com.
15% off your first order.
The code is crooked.
The code is crooked. Framebridge.com.
They offer a happiness guarantee. Love it.
I think the technical term for that is puffery, but I'm glad that they can do that.
Get started today framing your photos or art. Go to framebridge.com and use promo code crooked. You'll save an additional 15% off your first order.
I'm not sure if it is puffery technically.
Just go to framebridge.com, promo code crooked. Go today.
Today.
That's not all. Pod Save America, brought to you by the Cash App.
The Cash App.
We have something new today on the Cash App.
New content.
I don't know if you've seen this, John, but the Cash App has done something amazing.
What?
They've introduced the Cash Card.
What?
A new black debit card that you can design yourself via the app. That sounds
cool.
like something right up your alley.
That's something else. That's something I'll give an hour to.
The Cash Card allows you to use the cash that you keep in the app anywhere you want. You'll get notifications for all payments made with the card directly via the Cash App. You can laser etch your card to personalize it.
I'll do that.
And it will be delivered directly to you for free.
Great.
The Cash App team is constantly building awesome new features. So what are you doing using the other guys? We're not using the other apps anymore.
We're not using the other apps anymore.
Get the Cash App today.
We're using the Cash App, and we're getting, what are they calling this thing? Is it the Cash Card?
Cash Card.
Cash App, Cash
also,
Card?
if you downloaded, you haven't yet, that's $5 to you. That's $5 to the hurricane relief efforts. It's a win-win. But wait, there's more. Pod Save America, brought to you by Postmates.
Postmates.
Love Postmates.
Postmates.
Download Postmates.
Download Postmates.
If you haven't already. If you have, find a friend who hasn't.
Find a friend.
That friend is going to get $100 in free delivery credit. That's $100 in delivery credit.
So now you're getting free delivery.
And that
for $100 worth.
But it's 14 days after you enter the code. So you download it, you enter the code crooked, $100 in free delivery credit. In the next 2 weeks, you go nuts.
Yeah, use it or lose it, guys. Use it or lose it. You're going to download Postmates, get $100 in free delivery. You buy some food. It comes without the delivery fee. You get used to it. Now Postmates a part of your life.
Your doorbell rings.
And you open it.
You get your food.
It's a Poke Bowl.
Someone else is standing there
it's
with all
two
your
Poke
Your
Bowls.
frames are all done. Postmates.
Postmates.
Go download it. On the pod today, we are very lucky to have Illinois Senator Dick Durbin with us. Senator Durbin, welcome.
Good to be with you.
Let's start with yesterday's deal. What was the pitch that Senator Schumer and Leader Pelosi made to Trump about a 3-month extension, and why do you think he said yes?
Well, I think it was a pretty clean proposal. We said to him, we don't think it's in your best interest or the economy to shut down the government or default on the national debt or to get into a long, protracted fight over it. Nobody's arguing about helping Hurricane Harvey victims. We're all for that. So here's what we'll offer to you. We're going to give you 3 months right now. All Democrats are going to vote for it. 3-month CR, continuing the spending of the federal government so it's not shut down, a 3-month extension of the debt ceiling. Now that means in December, we've got a bigger job ahead of us, but we have 90 days before we get there. So let's work on this together. Let's get it done in a bipartisan fashion and show America in the time of a natural disaster crisis and other external threats, we can do something on a bipartisan basis.
Senator, how surprised were you that he accepted that deal right off the bat?
I won't say totally, but almost. It was a surprise to us. I think it was a surprise especially to Paul RINO and Mitch McConnell in the same room, and they said as much afterwards. But, you know, the president is unpredictable in many ways, and in this case, it turned out he nodded in our direction. And I think he did the right thing. From our point of view, we avoided a protracted political battle and all the bad things that could have come if we couldn't reach an agreement.
So, Senator, your colleague in the House, Luis Gutierrez, has criticized the deal, along with some other activists like United We Dream, saying that Schumer and Pelosi should have demanded a DREAM Act vote in exchange for the debt ceiling increase. You're obviously the original author of the DREAM Act. You've been fighting for that for 16 years. What do you think about that?
Well, listen, Luis is my buddy. We've worked on this together for so many years. I respect him so much. He has the arrest record to show for his dedication to immigration issues. He's the best. We just disagree here in terms of tactics. Here's what I think it boils down to. The DACA dreamers now enjoy 76% approval from the American people. 58% of the Republicans say don't deport these young people. We're in an amazingly positive position today that I think we can build on and will ultimately lead to the passage of a great DREAM Act that is going to help hundreds of thousands of young people. Now, let me put this scenario on the table that's been suggested by Luis and others. What if we had said, no, you can't go forward with this bill unless we have the DREAM Act involved? So what would the Republicans have said? Oh, isn't that just perfect? These folks supporting the DREAM Act won't provide help to the Hurricane Harvey victims unless they get their bill up and front and center. In fact, they're even threatening to shut down the government and maybe to shut down the American economy. I think that's a bad tactic and a bad position for us to be in. And I think the 76 approval rating would have started to disintegrate. The more practical side of that is I can't get anything through the Senate to help the DREAM Act now or 10 days from now or 10 weeks from now without 60 votes. I have 48 Democrats on a good day, and I think I have 48 that will be with me. I need 12 Republicans. Threatening Harvey victim support if we don't get the DREAM Act doesn't win me one single Republican vote. So I get their anxiety, I get their emotion, but let's think about this coolly. How are we going to get to the finish line with 60 votes plus in the Senate?
So 3 months from now that the Harvey relief package is off the table and we face another vote on both funding the government and the debt ceiling, do you think that Democrats should make that vote contingent on a DREAM Act vote? Is that the plan to sort of kick the pressure down 3 months down the road?
We are not saying, we're not saying making a contingency a quid pro quo. We're saying that at the end of the day, at the middle of December, when we have the big bill, we want to see two things included, the DREAM Act and whatever we need to keep the American healthcare system moving forward. And we believe, because of the decision, which we're about to make today for a 3-month extension, we'll be in a better position to make that happen. Because look at what we're going to face in December. We're going to face additional Harvey aid. This is a down payment. The billions of dollars that we're coming up with, I should say, is a front-end payment. We know it's going to be a dramatically larger amount of money that's going to be needed come December. God forbid what's going to happen with Hurricane Irma in the meantime, the fires in the West. So I'm putting together the scenario of all the things that need absolutely to be done. The problem is the Republicans can't deliver on those things. They have a spotty record when it comes to disaster assistance. They tend to be in favor of disaster assistance for their own states only. And that to me is unfair, and we ought to do better. But that's going to be the reality when it comes to Republican votes. Many of them are not going to be for a long-term spending bill. A lot of them have sworn that they'll never vote for extending the debt ceiling. The Republicans are going to need Democratic votes. We are in a better, stronger position to make sure that our priorities, the DREAM Act, the Affordable Care Act, are included.
Senator, Speaker Ryan today was asked about whether he'd put the DREAM Act or the House version of the DREAM Act, I guess, on the floor. And he said he was looking for a measure that would combine border security with enshrining DACA into law. Is that something that you are open to? And have you heard from some of your Republican colleagues about how they're thinking about the situation over the next 6 months?
Many of them, publicly and privately, have told me border security is an important part of it. And I haven't ruled that out, but I have ruled out some specifics. I am not going to vote for a 2,200-mile wall. I don't think any Democrats will. Many Republicans will, incidentally. Secondly, I am not going to change the sanctuary city provisions that Attorney General Sessions has been talking about. And third, I am not going to protect the Dreamers with a deal that means their parents are going to be deported. So take those things off the table, and if you're talking about actual border security, I'll pull up a chair. Let's talk it over about what might get this done.
Do you know who those 12 votes are in the Senate that you'll need to get to 60 on a DREAM Act? Have you been thinking about that?
Pretty close. I've got 4 already. I have a 5th one today is ready to step forward. And I know Lindsey Graham's working it as well. He believes that reaching 60, the 12 Republicans, is not going to be a heavy lift. He thinks they're out there once we put together this package that he supports, and I've kind of deferred to him. But as I look across at the Republicans, there are a lot of them who've come up to me and said, let's sit down and talk it over. So I think they realize it's the right thing to do, and it's a popular thing to do, and they're willing to take on some people on the right. If President Trump endorses whatever we come up with, it's going to give some of them cover to join us.
I was curious whether you thought this deal from the other day was just sort of a one-time deal, or you see some opportunity to maybe work a little closer with President Trump going forward.
Well, I don't know. Listen, I've been in politics for a while, and I've had a lot of people sitting across the table from me, political adversaries, and even if we disagree completely, I've generally understood their thinking as to how they reach a point, their political position. I find it very difficult to grasp the president's logical train of thought when it comes to political issues. After all he said about immigration, he continued to make exceptions when it came to the Dreamers and DACA over and over again. We love the Dreamers, and he told me personally, don't worry, we'll take care of those kids. And then last Tuesday, he sends out Attorney General Sessions, and drops a ton of bricks on 780,000 of these Dreamers. Not 12 hours later, he's tweeting about how we have to fix this. So I'm trying to stick with the president and his logic on this, and it's hard. But I think at the end of the day, I really believe at this moment as we speak, I think at the end of the day, he does want to fix it. He doesn't want this on his record, on his conscience.
Senator Durbin, thank you so much for joining us. I know you got to go vote. We appreciate the time, and good luck with everything.
Save America.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thanks again to Senator Durbin for joining us today, and we will see you next week.
Bye, guys.